Good morning. I'm Dave Thompson, the vicar of the Episcopal Church of the Ridge, and I'm talking to you from this beautiful church building, the Church of Our Savior in Trenton, South Carolina. And before I begin my sermon today, or my talk, I want to share with you some of the readings for today. We're in the fourth Sunday of Lent. On a Sunday morning, the readings are 1 Samuel 16, 1 through 13, Psalm 23, Ephesians 5, 8 through 14, and the Gospel is from John 9, 1 through 41. Now, for those of you who are doing the daily office, and during this time I encourage you to do the daily office or the daily devotions from the Book of Common Prayer. We're in year 2 of the readings, the fourth week of Lent. The daily office begins on page 37 of the Book of Common Prayer. If you do not have a Book of Common Prayer at home, you can find it online. Just put in your browser, Book of Common Prayer online, and you will find a PDF version of the Book of Common Prayer. If you would like to do the daily devotions instead of the daily office, morning and evening prayer, you can find those daily devotions on page 136 of the Book of Common Prayer. The readings are on page 955 in the Book of Common Prayer. So today, as I said, I'm sitting in this historic building of the Church of Our Savior. And the Episcopal Church of the Ridge is blessed because we have 3 historic buildings. Trinity, which was built in 1836. We have Grace, which was built and consecrated in 1874. And Our Savior, which was consecrated in 1882. And because we are blessed with this rich history, we know that this congregation, these parishes, this one parish, have been through situations that are similar to what we are facing today. Just think about everything that's happened since 1836 in our country's history. We had the Civil War, the war between the states, where the North fought against the South and the South fought against the North. We have the Spanish-American War. We have World War I. We have the flu of 1918. We have World War II. We have the Korean conflict. We have the Vietnam War. We have the Great Depression in the 1930s. We have Desert Storm. That list goes on, 9/11. And through all those difficult times, this congregation persevered. We were afraid, but did not let fear get the best of us. We went forward in faith, and we can do that same thing today in the midst of this virus which is plaguing our country. Today in the Gospel of John, we have another type of virus plaguing the people. This type of virus was a virus which wanted to blame this blind man for his own condition. In fact, the Gospel translators fall into this trap a little bit in the translation that we hear. In the beginning of John, it says, as Jesus walked along, he saw a blind man from birth. His disciples asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Jesus answered, neither this man nor his parents sinned. He was born blind so that God's works might be revealed in him. But actually, what I have learned is that the Greek does not contain this last segment of the sentence. Instead it says, Jesus answered, neither this man nor his parents sinned. In other words, this whole section of that he was born blind so that God's works might be revealed in him were not part of the original Greek. I think we need to hold on to this. Too often we try to blame somebody for what they're facing. We want to try to find out what's causing this or that. But Jesus didn't bother to get into all that with the people who were questioning him that day. In fact, he didn't even answer their questions. Instead, he went about his business of healing this man so this man could come into a new relationship with himself, with the world around him, and especially with God. Our faith is based upon our relationships. Our faith is based upon our relationship with God and our relationship with one another. This blind man had such faith that he came to Jesus before he could even see him. He trusted in Jesus enough to allow Jesus to use common, everyday dirt to help heal him. Somebody who did not already believe would never have allowed somebody to pick up dirt and spit into it and smear it over his eyes. This man was following the shepherd of the sheep, the good shepherd, whom we learn about in chapter 10 of the Gospel of John. And the blind man was following the voice of the shepherd, and he believed the shepherd would heal him, would make him whole, and he did. Not just because of his blindness, but because of his relationship with himself and with God and with the world around him. He did not know what would happen to him after he was healed. Neither do we know what will happen to us in the midst of this virus. Good things will happen to us, and bad things will happen to us. But with God beside us, we will persevere. As the 23rd Psalm says today, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me lie down in green pastures. He restoreth my soul." Indeed, God restores our souls and allows us to do the things that sometimes we think are impossible. But with God at our side, we will persevere. This is not a time in which we can give up hope. I am full of hope for tomorrow. I saw a beautiful scene on a walkway in North Augusta called the Greenway. And I'm walking along, keeping my physical distance, as we're all supposed to do today. And as I was walking down that Greenway, I saw this family of 5. There was a mother pushing a stroller, and behind her was a husband who had a shirt on that said, "My Lucky Charms." And in the wagon behind him was a wagon with 2 boys in it, about 4 years old. They looked as if they might be twins. And my first thought was, how did he get those 2 boys to stay in that wagon? My boys would never have stayed in that wagon. And yet, I looked at him again, and he kind of had a sheepish smile on his face. And I knew that before he had these children, before he was married, this man never dreamed that he would be pulling a wagon on the Greenway, wearing a shirt saying, "My Lucky Charms." He never thought that would happen to him. But it did. He got married, he had children, his world changed for the better. The world around us is changing right now. We're in uncertain times, but we cannot believe at all that this will be the end of any of us. We must have hope in the future, hope in tomorrow, and hope in this congregation. This congregation has been here since 1836. We have persevered, and we will persevere today. God will not desert us. And I know that many of you are facing situations where family members could be unemployed, or family members are in high-risk occupations, nurses, first responders. In my own family, I have a son who might lose his job. I have a daughter-in-law who is a nurse in an emergency room in Augusta. I worry about them. I pray for them, as I do for this whole congregation. But I do not lose faith in my God, who will be beside me to uplift me and all of you here today. We may have fear, but we cannot allow fear to control us, because God is with us now and tomorrow. I want you to know that as the vicar of the Episcopal Church of the Ridge, that I have been taking out my parish roster, and I've been praying individually for each one of you in my daily devotions. I pray that you will hold up all the members of this congregation in your prayers. Hold up our first responders, our doctors, our nurses, our paramedics, our law enforcement, whomever, our mail carriers, everyone who's putting themselves in harm's way, so that they know that they are being supported by this crowd of faithful witnesses. But above all, let our prayers be more than words. Let them be actions. Call upon your neighbors by phone. Keep your physical distance, but check on them. Allow them to know that the Episcopal Church of the Ridge is still very much a part of this community, and we will be part of this community tomorrow. It's important for this community to know that we are here, that we are part of the social fiber of these communities of Ridge Spring, Edgefield, and Trenton, because these communities need these strong fibers to hold these communities together. Pray for yourselves, pray for this community, pray for one another. But above all, pray that God will be in our midst. Just as the blind man was healed in today's gospel, so may we be healed from our fears and instead of fear have hope for tomorrow. Other bad things have happened in the past in this country and in the lives of our congregation. This too will pass, and we'll find that we are soon in the presence of a resurrected Lord who never ever deserts us. Amen.